Moving to a new country can be really lonely in the beginning. Even if it's something that you've been looking forward to and planning for a long time, it can be really hard to turn up and then think, well, now what? I have certainly been there, and the feelings of isolation and frustration is something that I hear people talking about a lot when they talk about their experiences moving to Portugal. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about that as somebody who has experienced this and been through this journey themselves. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Liz, and I help people who are relocating or retiring to Portugal go from saying their first words up to having their first conversations with native speakers so they can really live Portugal at its best. All my free resources and the info on my program are linked in the description. But occasionally I do like to do videos like this that share a little bit more of my own personal story and the advice that I have for you as somebody who has moved to Portugal, which I did 6 years ago now, because I think it can be as helpful as practical lessons in Portuguese, especially if you're there sitting at home wondering, well, how do I fit in and integrate into my local community? So if you're interested in today's video, please give it a like and let's get started. So I first came to Portugal as a student to study for a semester all the way back in 2008. And even though I'd been learning the language for about a year at that point, I was still utterly terrified of speaking. I'm a recovering perfectionist still, so the idea that I was gonna open my mouth and make mistakes was terrifying. I didn't want to sound like a child when I spoke. So for the first couple of weeks, I did cling to the international student bubble where I felt kind of safe and comforted. But after a little while, I thought to myself, well, if this is what I'm going to do and these are the only people I'm going to spend time with, what was the point in coming to Portugal? So I decided I really need to find a way to force myself to speak and actually be immersed in a Portuguese speaking environment. So I found a flat share with 6 other Portuguese girls. So at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of rough. They would all speak so fast, I would completely miss what was going on, and then suddenly I would hear my name and then freeze. I was like, what did they just say? Are they expecting me to say something now? So in the end, what I had to do, and the first thing that I encourage all of you to do, is just to stop worrying about saying something perfectly and just try to communicate in any way you can, because people are going to be so much more understanding than you think. Imagine if you were in a group of English speakers and there was somebody who didn't have English as their first language and they were trying to communicate. Would you be impatient and mean, or would you try and help them along? My guess is it's probably the latter, and that's what people are going to do for you if you just throw yourself into it and give it a go. And that's what these girls did for me, and honestly, it was the best experience that I could have asked for. It took a good 3 months or so to build up my confidence in speaking to them in Portuguese, and this is something else that I want you to know. It's not going to happen overnight. Building up your confidence in speaking is actually going to take a long time, and it's going to be very gradual, both in terms of getting to know people and actually seeing your Portuguese improve. So many people beat themselves up because they're not seeing progress, but really you need at least 3 to 6 months of full-on immersion like I was having in that experience to actually see improvements, and probably a lot longer than that if you're not living in an all Portuguese speaking environment. So letting go of perfectionism and finding a way to immerse yourself in Portuguese are the first 2 pieces of advice I would give if you are feeling alone in Portugal and you actually want to start integrating. It doesn't have to be as extreme as moving in with Portuguese people. Some of my students, for example, have taken up classes and courses as a way to start to get themselves immersed. So whether that's going to a gardening class, a Pilates class, a fitness class, even joining something like a local walk that people in your community do regularly. There are so many interesting ways that you can start to immerse yourself in a kind of less daunting, permanent type of way, and you really will start to have fun at the same time. There are so many ways to actually expose yourself to the language. You just have to be willing to speak imperfectly. If you feel like your Portuguese is nowhere near being able to do this, that's okay. That's what I am here for. My program does take you from absolute zero to being able to converse with native speakers in a matter of months. So you can head to the description and take the free taster lesson and apply to join us. I'll leave some student testimonials there as well, so you can read about the incredible transformation that lots of my students have been through and really been able to immerse themselves in their communities. So when I returned to Portugal to live permanently in 2017, I now had my degree in Portuguese. I spoke very good Portuguese at this point, and the difference of how easily I was able to fit in and start meeting people was like night and day compared to my Erasmus semester. And this is the piece that I really want people to know, because yes, you can get by with English in the big cities, and yes, you can make English speaking friends, but again, you came to Portugal for a reason, and that one of those reasons was that you wanted to get to know the country and you wanted to get to know and connect to the people here. So this time when I arrived, I knew I needed to get speaking and meeting people straight away, because the longer I put it off, the more I would build it up into this big thing in my head, and then I would just find excuses not to do it. So this is another piece of advice I want to give you. You need to get speaking as soon as possible. There's never going to be a right time where you're going to feel like, yes, now I'm ready, okay? So just make sure you do it as quickly as possible. Just jump in at that deep end. So as soon as I moved into my permanent place, I knocked on my neighbour's door, introduced myself and asked a very practical question. I had tons of IKEA boxes and I didn't know where I was supposed to do my recycling, so that's what I asked her. And that tiny interaction in the beginning has now sparked a friendship that I absolutely couldn't live without. So the neighbour who answered the door was Isabel. She is a mum of two, and now she has become my surrogate mum in Portugal as well, and I don't know what I would do without her. Whenever I need help or I don't know what to do about something, I know that I can always call on her. So whether that's something practical like my washing machine's broken down, who do I call? Or if it's the emotional support that I've so desperately needed throughout this pregnancy, she has checked in on me, made me soups. She burst into tears when she felt the baby kick the other day, and honestly, it's such a special friendship to have. You really can't put a price on friendships like that, and knowing that she is just downstairs makes me feel so safe and at home. But here's the thing, she doesn't speak any English, and the idea that I might not have got to know her because we didn't speak the same language just breaks my heart. It's so sad to think that we might not be friends if I hadn't made the effort to learn Portuguese. So I want you to consider, what could you be missing out on by not improving your Portuguese skills? Who are you missing out on knowing? What experiences are passing you by? Because I can say, not just from my own experience, but the experiences of my students, that leaning into learning Portuguese really is the key to unlocking the best that Portugal has to offer. If you haven't already, I want you to go ahead after this and watch the stories of my students Sharon and Barbara. They moved from the US and the UK respectively and have done such an incredible job of learning Portuguese and making friends. And they both started from absolute zero. Their stories are so heartwarming, and it really proves to you that it can be done. This summer, my students have shared stories about being invited to participate in local festivals, participating in sardine grilling, striking up conversations with neighbours and children, and the joy that oozes out of their posts is so wonderful to see. And that's what life can be like here, and that's what I want for you too. So I hope this video has made you realise that you're not alone if you are feeling alone in Portugal, but you can turn the situation around. If you are interested in working towards a conversational level in Portuguese with me, all you have to do is head to the description and take the free taster lesson to get all the information on how to join us. However you choose to make improvements in your Portuguese, I want you to know that I believe in you. I wish you the best of luck, and I'll be back next week with my usual practical lessons in Portuguese. So I hope that I see you there. Ciao for now.